Hello everyone, this is Frankie Tech Lord Taylor. Want to talk about Morpheus, aka Bad Morpho. Bad Morpho is a in-game construction system for multi-users, but it's designed to serve as a core system for customization systems for various types of entities, such as characters, creatures, weapons, and vehicles. It can also be used to construct architecture and act as a level editor, just to generally place things in the level or on a level map. Here I have server client set up here to. It has a default character type pawn that spawns into the level, and this is what you see here. And I'm going to just run through a few of the features that will demonstrate how to spawn what we call parts that are attached to entities such as this character here. And what I'll be doing is flipping between the server and client, just so to make sure that everything's replicating properly. And if we run into bugs, we're still in the development process, at development stage at this time, so we'll have to go back and fix problems. So we went with here is kind of like a ribbon type menuing system, and we just went with that to keep the system out of the way, to make it easy to get out of the way. So put everything here at the top so you know where everything's at. I have a few options here that kind of alter how the GUI works. One is just to make it more opaque, so that you can see it, and you can change the color here just for your own liking. It's really not impacting here. And another, I always like the little blur effect, so I just added that as well. Alright, so I wanted to make that a little bit darker so we can see the buttons on the menu system. Alright, and just to represent the client, we'll make that a little different color over here on to the right. Alright, so here we go. Alright, now one thing I wanted to do is this character pawn represents an entity. The way the saving system will work is that you can actually save more than one entity, but as a customization system, you're typically working on a single entity at one time. So the features there, but right now we're just going to focus on this single entity here, even though there's another one hiding over here that kind of gives you scale. I just put that in there to represent the scale, and this is actually a large blown up version of the UE4 mannequin, and it just makes it easier to see some of the shapes that we spawn into the world. Okay, so what I want to do is turn this collision off, and to do that we're going to go into select mode, and I currently have some breakpoints. Let me get rid of those. Alright, and okay, so we select that, select entity, and just turn the animation off by clicking no animation. And the way this character is set up, it just has one animation, idle animation that's running, and you just flip between that idle animation and no animation. So we match on the client side of things. We're going to do the same thing over here as well. Select and then go into entity, turn it off. Okay, cool. Have some debug text printed up on the screen. I'm going to have to remove that a little bit later on. Alright, for a spawning demonstration, I'm going to select edit mode spawn, and then we go to objects. It's currently labeled objects, but these will represent different types of parts that you would attach to your entity. And this is going to be broken down into categories. So a category would be a list of object types. Currently we're working only with static meshes, so that is the object type that these are all set up for. And we have primitives, a little library of static meshes I created myself in Blender, some weapon static meshes, and I'm going to be adding some vehicles. And you probably won't see this in the actual released, but that's currently how this is set up. So we're going to just attach some primitives. I like to put cones on the character here because it kind of looks like little spikes. So I'm just going to post a cone, and as you can see, also in the client side of things, that function was replicated. Now let's go ahead. I'm going to demonstrate the orientation function, and that is what you would use to adjust the position, scale, and rotation of a part. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to select the part here, and let's see, and you click on, currently I have it set up where you select the different axes that you want to move, and you can only move one at a time. It's just an easier way of dealing with this. And you also have the ability to adjust this on this side here with the spin button. Alright, but that's a quick, and let's see here. Alright, I got to had to reshape that because that's currently is what happens is if you have modified these settings, they apply those settings to the object, and that's not supposed to work that way. I got to fix that. Alright, so I'm going to scale this so that it's nice and pointy. Alright, so we're demonstrating the orientation function. Now what I want to do is I want to copy this shape. So I hit the copy, select that object, and then use the paste feature. And how that paste, I'm going to change kind of how it functions, but currently you have to, if you want to paste it, you click on the entity that you want to paste it from, that you copied it from. So in this case here, we have spawned another copy of that part, but since it's exactly in the same position, orientation, and scale, you can't see that. So what we can use here is this move feature that allows us to move it. And basically how this works is it allows you to point and click anywhere on the entity, and it will move that part accordingly. All right, cool. So we demonstrated spawn, we demonstrated orientation, we demonstrated the move, we demonstrated the copy and paste function. There will be changes made to make these more user-friendly, and we need more visual representation when some of the objects are selected. Right now, not sure why the highlighting function isn't working exactly the way I want it, but it's there. It's just not working the way I would like it to work. So let's go over here on the client side, and as you can see, the changes that we performed on the server, they're also on the client. We also want to move things around just to, let's say I'll go ahead and select this shape here and just move it around. So as you can see, you have the ability of a multi-user editing. Okay. Let's see, what else do we want to do? Let's demonstrate the delete function, or destroy is what we call it. The opposite of spawn is destroy. And there we go. As you can see, we easily deleted the parts that were spawned into the level. All right, let's I don't have undo and redo history set up to work yet. That's a function that we commonly find ourselves using in editing. So I'm going to have some limited form of that. I'm just not sure exactly how I plan it to work out. Will you be able to back up the history for all the modifications, or just maybe go back a few levels of the previous modifications made to a specific part? That is to be determined. So let's go ahead and spawn in some shapes, and what I want to do is demonstrate the paint functionality, which is basically lets you set up PBR materials. Really, not much here other than altering the diffuse color, the diffuse color, excuse me. There's an emissive parameter that's exposed, and then we have metallic roughness, specular, and a refraction depth bias. These are all parameters accessible in the PBR, so we want the at least the basics to be accessible. And right now I'm going to just simply let's see, change the color of one of these into something nice and bright that we can see. Like that. If you want to change it into metal, nice metallic, should be nice and shiny, kind of hard to see, but as you can see kind of right here as I move the camera, we have some nice shiny metal going on. Now these currently just using primitive shapes that were pre-created meshes, primitive shapes. The engine provides those. They come in handy in certain areas. So that's currently what you see, but I would expect users to create their own meshes for their own use and set up the object categories as necessary, and that is data table driven. Let's see if I can show that here. Let's see, there we go, and data tables, and I just call this a parts categories table. And basically there is a data type that has the name, a parent name, which would be a reference to a parent group, description, and type of category. And this was just a feature added for myself, so I knew what I'm using these different groups. This structure is used in a lot of different areas, and I'll explain that later. And then with that you have your parts list. So in each category there's a parts list, and currently we're only working with static meshes, so we don't really have to worry about too much, but that's where each one of these parts would be. Alright, I saw something here. I'm gonna have to try to figure out what's going on. Well, don't know about that. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing, so let me not sidetrack myself, which I do pretty easily. Okay, so what I want to show you here is the clear function, which is basically it deletes all of the objects in the scene. And we have it here where it gives you a little time to confirm whether or not this is something you want to do. If you don't, you just let it time out, just like you did there. But if you do want to go ahead, go through the process, you have a certain time limit before that times out. Kind of a better way of confirming whether or not you want to delete something, in my opinion. Another method to confirm whether or not you want to delete something, if you have the name of that object, you type that name in, and that is your confirmation prior to clicking the delete button that you want to confirm deletion. All right, so what I have done here for you is I've been playing around, and I actually prior to this video I had created some setups or configurations. That's what I call them. And in here, the way the system is currently set up, you can only save, you can actually save both on the server and the client, but when you go to load, the server will load and replicate the spawning of the configuration to all the clients. But if the client loads the configuration, it's only locally, so there's no spawning from the client side. And I will demonstrate that. Is that we have here, because I'm on the same machine, I have the configuration for both to be used by both server and client. In here I'm going to go ahead and select this Gore configuration, and Gore configuration was basically me setting up a few of these cylinders in the back. But as you can see, that's not available to you on the server because it loaded locally to the client. All right, so we're going to go ahead and delete those or clear those out. And that is not working. I don't know why that's not working. Let's see if this works. Well, some kind of bug going on. I have to check out later on because things aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Well, we was able to load it in, and I can't get them to clear. So somehow or another, the tracking for these objects, and I made some changes to the code. We'll have to go in the back and figure out why. All right, now if you notice, as I was talking, I clicked on daemon, which is a configuration for this nice little demon tail of primitives I made, spears and some cones. That was replicated to both all the clients on the server, and that's because I loaded that configuration in from the server. So we have a few other ones here. Spiker, which is going to be these nice sets of cones there that look like horns. They are replicated over to here. Gore, which again is the spines on the back, and then there's a wing, which is using some custom meshes that I have set up in that objects tech lords here. Those are some nice little shapes I put in there that I was going to use for some mecha construction, and it's just based on the idea that a lot of those shapes have a strange, they're polygons with some nice materials on them. So here we go. Let me see if I can get this to delete on the server side of things. And yes, we have deleted. So problem with loading in configurations on the local side, don't do it if you're on a client and you don't need to. Let me see if this is just a primary problem here on the client, which I'm going to have to figure out why this is not. Yeah, so we're going to have to figure out why there's no recognition here to delete these, and that looks like a loading problem. Okay, so attachment is something. Let me show you why the attachment isn't on by default. We probably will make it a default setting that when you spawn a new part into the world, they will automatically attach to the body of the entity or the location that you're trying to attach it to, because right now that's not the case. And let me just go ahead and demonstrate with I like the spines here of these big cylinders on the spine. I just think, for some reason, I think that's cool. Maybe we should make them metallic or something like that. But anyway, these spines, if you set animation on, as you notice here, they are not moving with the body, and that's because they're not attached. Now let's go ahead and attach them. So we're gonna turn that off. An attachment feature works pretty simple. You select attach, select the object you want to attach, and then you attach it to the entity body by clicking on that entity body. All right, and I just need to create a better better way to visualize what areas you're clicking on. There's supposed to be a highlighting functionality working here, but I can't really see it, so that means it's not good enough. All right, so let's go ahead and turn that animation back on, and as you can see, it's attached to the body now. And you could detach it while it's animating to other parts of the body that are moving. So if we went over here and say attach, and bam, you could attach that cylinder to the head. You could attach it to the arm. You can attach it here just by clicking. And that is applicable to any of the other objects. You just click on the ones you want to click, bam, attach it to where you want to attach it to. And until you select another object, that object is the active object that you're editing. All right, I think we covered all the functionality. Let's see, connectors. Let me talk about some of the features to come. We have layers. Layers will basically allow you to select an entity, and you can actually, when you assign or attach parts, you can actually put them in a group of layers. So if you want to have a certain area of the body that has a certain type of mesh or design material, excuse me, that would be on one layer. And if you want something underneath, which it's going to be a performance, you're going to have consideration of performance. You might be hiding that with some custom occlusion or something of the nature, but it would be a different layer. And you can I'm going to put functionality in the editor where you can hide and show those layers individually, and it'd be an easy way to work with detail. Now, whether or not you want detail in your game at runtime for the player, that's an option for you. But we rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So that will be how layers work. At runtime, they may also be useful for performance. I know that when you create certain instant static meshes, once you change the material, it needs its own instant static mesh. So that may be another way of layering and grouping these objects together for performance sake. Let's go with connectors. What will connectors do? Connectors will be used for what I call assemblies. Assemblies are small groups of parts that are used, for example, an arm, which consists of your top portion of the arm, the lower portion, and then your hand ligaments for the hands. That would be an assembly, which has its own parts on it. And what you would do if you wanted to attach that arm to the entity, you would like that arm to automatically know where it can connect to the entity and fit properly. This is where connectors come in. Connectors will allow you to store offset transformation offset information, so that the part will automatically know, one, where it can connect, and two, even if it's allowed to connect. This is kind of information that connectors will store. One feature I did not show, and it just came to me talking about these connectors, is the swap feature. And I think the swap feature is really cool because it's actually something you would see, a feature that you would see in a customizer, game customizer, that you wouldn't notice this until you were actually looking at it. So let's go ahead and let me show you how this would work. I'm going to select a shape here, and as you notice, when I clicked on that cylinder, it automatically turned into a cube, and that's because the cube is the first object in the master list. Now if I select capsule, it turns to a capsule, plane, cone. And a real slick part about this is that you can swap out these other shapes just by clicking them, and they will swap out with cones. Isn't that nice? That is a feature that I put in the system because I know that it will be required. Currently, it only works with parts, but the goal is to be able to swap out entire assemblies, entities, if that's the case, with these, and it will work the same. So that's a function that I don't know is common to editors, but I think it would be something common in a in-game customization system. Alright, well, that is all I have, and I tell you what, I really like the spiny back thing here so much that I'm going to save it as a Gore 2 or Gore Spikes. and we'll save that. Okay, let's see, Gore Spikes, and there we go. So while we're here, let's go ahead and test this loading now. Oh, there's all kinds of bugs there with that destroy. I guess that's part of that bug I was having issues with on the client side, where I could not get those actors to delete. All right, let's go ahead and fire this back up. And the goal here is to load in the Gore Spikes configuration. And there we go, Gore Spikes. And let's see if we were able to do it. And of course it is done. However, due to the fact I don't have the attachment saved, the attachment information isn't saved, that was not saved, and it does not automatically attach the way we currently have it set up. So these are going to be features that we're going to be adding in the future, so that if you attach something in the editor and save it, it's attached when you load it back in. That is something we're going to have to fix if we want our users to be happy. But we also have this handy dandy way of attaching things as a one at a time. So here we are back in business with attaching those, and this would also be on the client side as well. All right, so this is Bad MORFO, Frankie Tech Lord Taylor. If you have any other questions, please post those in the forum, and thank you for watching my video. Bye bye.